Hello, welcome back to my garden, the garden. My garden, the garden. We're going to be discussing that in the near future. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, click that bell icon to be notified when I do post a new video. This way you don't miss it. But before we start discussing things that will be, let's discuss what is. I have my citrus plants outside here. I have my 2 lemons, I think they're both lemons, orange and key lime. And they have been wintering in the greenhouse now. We are supposed to get some freezing temperatures next week, so they're not going to stay outside very long. I think today's supposed to get up to 60, overnight is supposed to get to around 50, and then tomorrow is going to be again 60, 65 with rain. I didn't know this, but apparently rain contains a certain amount of nitrogen. Exactly how much and all, I don't know. I don't know the exact science behind it, but I remember hearing this someplace and I was like, huh. So it'd be a good fertilizer there for the plants. Instead of getting tap water, they'll get some nice natural rain there. It'll help them to hopefully start flowering. Well, some of them are flowering, and the lemons actually got a aphid infestation. It looks like I think I've cleared it all up. A couple of good saturations of neem oil. So I think that's taking care of it, but it'll take them a little bit of time to bounce back. But it'll be fine because I also have to fertilize the plants, but I won't do that until after the last freeze, which should be around April 1st, and then I'll put them outside. Obviously, that's where they'll spend the spring and the summer and the fall before they go back in the greenhouse for the winter. And there's one other thing I want to touch on before we get on with today's sowing. So a few videos ago, I asked you guys what I should do with this space. It's next to my brick walkway that I had just recently done, and it's just it's a weird space. It's in shade good portion of the day. It gets blazing sort of midday sun. It's about 3 to 4 hours maybe, and then the rest of the time it's back in shade as the sun starts setting and the garage blocks the sun there. So I got a bunch of suggestions. I got a lot of good little hints and tips, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this my garden instead of a particular style of garden. So hoses obviously go away. That'll be happening soonish. This one hose that you may see here in the back that's going to get buried underneath the gravel, that actually feeds a hose for the back deck. Right here by the back deck, I'm going to put a bench. That was somebody's suggestion. And I think 1 or 2 of you actually suggested a water feature of some sort. Now I've been looking at a bunch of different fountains, and what I'm thinking is maybe a wall fountain right here. Either that or I'm going to do a typical traditional fountain, but I don't know, I think it looked weird in the space. Either way, there will be a water feature here. And then last but not least, and it's probably going to be out towards the end over here, I'm going to do a Japanese maple. Now this Japanese maple, I'm going to do in a container so I can shift and move it around a bit if I need to. But I think towards the end it'll be nice. It's not going to get tremendously huge. I'm going to keep it relatively small. And then I don't know if it's in camera shot, but down over by the stairs, I'm going to just continue to keep my pots. The other suggestion you guys made, or one of you made, is, and if you guys know who you are when you made these suggestions, you know who you are, and thank you again for everybody who left a suggestion. If you're watching this in the future, you can go back, look at my video, I believe it's called A Strange Space, and you can still leave suggestions. Nothing is set in stone with this area. In fact, this area is not going to be developed until maybe, later this year, and I think this will be an ever-evolving space. There will also be coleus and pots, but I'm thinking over here maybe can do some pots, maybe some planters along the wall, sort of help hide this foundation a bit. And I can do coleus and maybe something else. If you guys, again, any suggestions as to what I can mix with the coleus, maybe give some height, let me know in those comments below. But this is what we have so far. So we're going to take a lot of elements from a lot of different suggestions, and we're just going to put it together and to make this a sort of a resting, tranquil space. Again, bench over here, that'll help hide underneath the deck. I'll do pots over there, I'll do pots over here, water feature at some point, and then a Japanese maple towards the end, and that will just sort of, I think, fill in the space and sort of make it its own room, if that makes any sense. So if you guys have any suggestions, or if you think I'm just babbling and prattling on, let me know in the comments below. Let's get on with today's sowing. So today I'm going to be sowing chocolate chip tobacco. Never grown that before. If you've never grown tobacco in Nicotiana, it's a fun plant and it self-seeds fairly easily, which is nice if you want it to sort of spread and fill out an area. I'm also going to be sowing tomato. I'm going to start my tomatoes now. I'm not going to grow a lot of tomatoes. I've had a lot of bad luck with tomatoes down here, mostly due to the insect pressure. Unfortunately, the pest pressure is just too much. So this year I'm only going to grow a couple of plants. What I'm going to try to do when the time comes and they start fruiting is I'm going to put organza bags around the fruit. And I'm hopeful, I've seen somebody else do this. I don't know how well it's going to work, but I'm hopeful that the organza, it's like a mesh, it's a very fine mesh, but I'm hoping that will keep the insects off of the fruit long enough for them to get to a stage where I can then harvest them without really any damage to the fruit itself, which would be fantastic because, yeah, it's nothing worse than going, oh, that tomato looks perfect, and you turn around and the backside's like all melty and droopy because the bugs have been eating the heck out of it. It's horrible. Next one I'm going to do is larkspur. I've had mixed results. I don't think I've had really any good results with larkspur down here, but I'm going to try it again. I'll do some small pots of that and see how they germinate and how that grows. The next one is going to be, I'm going to do some carnations. Again, I'm going to do a couple of small pots of those because I don't know how that's going to all work out. Then there's one that's going to be definitely going out into the flower garden, and I'm going to do bottomless pots for this one. So I'm going to, let me show you. I'm going to take these plastic pots here. Now this is fairly decorative. I bought this off Amazon on Black Friday sale. I'm going to turn around, cut the bottom out, and I'm going to put it out in the flower garden. And when I get to that point, I'll show you guys where it's going and what the purpose of it all is, other than obviously growing plants in. But I'm going to, in this pot, I'm going to grow blue steel Russian sage. Now, blue steel Russian sage only gets to about, I think it's 2.5, maybe 3 feet tall. I'm going to start the seeds indoors in the greenhouse today. When they get to an appropriate size, they'll be going into this container out in the flower garden, and I'll bring you guys along for that. And then the last thing I'm going to do is zinnia, and a lot of zinnia. I like zinnia because it's nice and easy, and it basically produces flowers all summer long, and you can keep deadheading it and it'll just keep pumping out flowers, and it's fantastic. And if you haven't been watching, if you're new to the channel and you've been watching, I just expanded the flower garden to sort of complete the room space that I want it to be. So now my flower garden has 60 by 90 borders. It's 60 feet wide by 90 feet long, and the beds are 8 feet deep. So I have a lot of flower bed space to fill. And I think this year I'm going to be putting quite a few zinnias out into those spaces to help start filling up that space once I get it. I'll do a whole nother video about the new beds when I get to that point. Now, to have room for all of these seeds, I'm going to be making some changes here to the greenhouse. Now, as you can see, the benches, this side at least, is filling up quite a bit. Now, this side gets the most sun. This is basically the south side. And this box right here, I had radishes and lettuce in to grow over the winter. Now, the radish did grow, and that grows quickly, and I ate the last of it today. So I got to empty this out, and then I'll have all this space to put all the seedlings that I'm going to be planting today here. The other thing I've done is on this side, I've started taking some of the box cuttings and privet cuttings and other things that I brought in from the potting bench last fall into this space, and I started putting them back out onto the potting bench. If we do get a light freeze or even a hard freeze, if it's just a few hours, all these cuttings, all these plants should be fine. But eventually all this will go out, and thus freeing up all this bench space here for plants that'll be obviously growing for the springtime. One of the things I use this side, because this is, you can see, is shadier, as it were, is for the foxgloves. Now, quite a few of my foxgloves or foxglove seeds are getting quite large. This is the Dalmatian white, and I have probably a few hundred right here. But once I prick them out and start potting them in individual pots, they'll go on this side because foxglove it's not a big fan of direct sunlight. So they'll go over here and they'll grow on until, again, after the last frost, and then I can plant them out into the garden. it's a shuffling game that I have to sit there and play and just figure out what's going where and who needs what sun, and some seeds need sun to germinate, other seeds do not. Alrighty, so I've got some terracotta pots here prepped, and I think the first one I'm going to do is the tobacco. If I want to do a little bit, I'm just going to do it in a smaller pot. If I want to do big, I'll do it in a big tray. So for instance, I want to grow a lot of foxglove, big tray. Just a little bit of foxglove, small cup. So like I said, the first one is going to be the select chocolate chip tobacco. And for this, surface sow requires light to germinate. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add the seed. I'll do a light press. I'm not going to use up all the seed, and I do not want a lot of plants. If I do like this plant, or if it does do well, I can grow more next year. Gently add water. Don't forget to label. Okay, the next one I'm going to do is the blue steel Russian sage, and this one it says barely cover. And it germinates in 7 days, so here we go. There's not a lot of seeds here, so I have to be very careful. I'm just going to lightly press them into the soil. And what I'll do is I'll cover these with vermiculite. Water, gently. Label, and put on the bench. All right, next I'm going to do my tomatoes. Now I'm going to grow 2 types of tomatoes here, Homestead and Mortgage Lifter. I believe they're both fairly large tomatoes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a few seeds into each of these pots. So first is Homestead, next is Mortgage Lifter. Press into the soil, cover lightly, label, and water. Before we get on to sowing more seeds, did you know I have a newsletter? Yeah, if you go over to growinggreenfinger.com, scroll all the way down towards the bottom, you'll see the link for newsletter. Just go ahead and drop your email address in there. And once a month, at the end of the month, I send you a singular newsletter, so you guys won't be getting spammed with newsletters. Just one newsletter once a month, sort of a end of month wrap up, a little blurb by me, and that's basically it. And the newsletter is also good because if you think you missed a video, you can go and just look at the newsletter and then watch it right from there. I have a couple of different types of larkspur here. I have Giant Imperial and Smoky Eyes. I thought I had more varieties, but apparently these other ones, because I can't read, are the same. I'm just going to sow a couple of pots here and then set them aside, and then we'll move on to the grand event, the zinnia. The other advantage to doing small pots is if these don't germinate or these don't take off, then I'm not wasting that much potting soil. I can just take this potting soil and either reuse it for another project, or I can turn around and put it in the compost heap where it'll eventually get used somewhere in the garden. Okay, last but not least is going to be the zinnia. So what I've already done is prepared this tray. Now, I did speak about this in one of my other videos. I got this tray from Gardener Supply, and it has all these individual cells that pull out. This is all galvanized metal. If it does rust, it only rusts a little bit, but basically this could last you forever. So first I'm going to plant up the giant purple zinnia, label, and put on the bench. Now the next one I'm going to do is giant coral. Now I don't think I want a lot of giant coral, so I'm just going to do a few small pots. And maybe I'll keep 4 to 6 plants, not sure yet, but also 3 to 4, also about 4 seeds per pot, and then I'll decide if they all germinate, how many do I want to keep. They may not all germinate. Out of these 4 pots that I sow with 4 seeds in them, each approximately, I may only get 2 plants that come up, and that's fine. Put the extra seeds back in the envelope and save till next year. The next one on the bench is polar bear. I think I'm going to plant quite a bit of polar bear. For this one, I'll use one of my larger black trays. There's a YouTuber who started following me recently, Croc Gardener, the Croc Gardener. I'll put it up on the screen here. I've watched 1 or 2 of his videos. I should watch a few more. But if you guys want, go check him out. Again, I think it's like the Croc Gardener or something. I'll put it up on the screen here. But go check him out. He's got some good stuff. He's growing things. He's building his garden. Let's see what he's got going on. He has a recent video on his seed starting station in his basement. I want to watch that video. And I didn't label it. Always label. Now, I mean, how many times I do this, I always forget. Giant orange zinnia. I don't think I want a lot of these. We're going to go small cup. The next one we're going to do is giant golden yellow. I got quite the selection of colors. I wonder if anybody's still watching this video. Let me know if you're still watching in the comments below. I just had to take a small break, but before I took my break, I prepared soil and trays for the next round of zinnias that I'm going to be doing. Like I said, there's a lot of zinnias. So the next one up is Cherry Queen. I don't think I've ever grown Cherry Queen before. It looks like a red zinnia, so that'll be fun. And I want quite a few of them, so I'm going to do a big tray here. And again, I'm just going to sprinkle these on, then I'll do a light covering, water, label. And once these get to a certain size, again, I'll prick them out and put them into larger containers. Now these are from 2022, so I have no idea how they're going to germinate, but we'll find out. The next one up is Queen Lime Zinnia. Now these I collected from 2022, so again, I have no idea how they're going to germinate, so I think I'm going to be fairly liberal with them. The next one I'm going to do is El Dorado. This was the pink one I mentioned before. So this one's El Dorado. I'm only going to do a small cup. And it looks like I grew this one last year because this package is open, but again, I don't remember it, so it may not have left that lasting impression on me, so I'm just going to do a small cup and we'll go from there. Next one I'm going to do is also another bunch of old seeds. This is Lavender Queen. Okay, and the last one I'm going to do is Queen Lime with Blush. Again, another old seed from 2022. So, doesn't look like I have many left. I'm going to try to use them up. And the last two I'm going to do is Carnation Grenadini, I'll put the name right here, I can't speak. And Carnation, again, I can't speak, so I'll put the name right here. But I'm going to do these two in small pots because I don't know how they're going to turn out. There's 25 seeds in each packet. I'll probably only use 5 to 10, maybe. But let me start sowing these. I've been watching a lot of Bob Ross lately as I try to get these seeds out of the bag ever so carefully. If you don't know who Bob Ross is, he's an American painter known for his afro, his easy and fast painting style, and his very relaxed voice and demeanor. And as he creates his paintings, he keeps reminding the viewer, and I've been watching this on YouTube, so if you want to go watch Bob Ross or see what I'm babbling about, go just look up Bob Ross. I think he has his own channel there. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but his estate keeps his YouTube channel alive, airing all of his old episodes. But he keeps reminding the viewer that it's their world that they're creating.
You're the creator. Anything that you want, you can build here. This is your world.
While watching this guy do his thing, sort of reminds me of gardening. You know, you're creating your own little world, just putting your little trees and shrubs and bushes and plants, vegetables, wherever you want, where you want them. Create your own little world, do it your own way. Viewer recently say that he's a chaotic gardener. That's fine. You can be a chaotic gardener. Does this look like, you know, organized neatness? You can be a chaotic gardener. You can build your own little world with your own little plants in your own style. I'm building a large garden here in 1.5 acres in eastern North Carolina, and I've got a flower garden that's 60 by 90. I have a vegetable garden that's 40 by 80. I have an orchard that I lost track of because I just expanded it again. I'm going to add a garden between the flower garden and the orchard that's going to be 30 by 90. The shade garden is going to be an indeterminate size because of its setup and configuration, but it's going to be approximately 60 feet deep. The rose garden is 60 by 60. So I have these garden spaces that are very rectangular or square, but that's not everybody's thing. Some people like that, the amorphous islands that you often see for that natural look. And I could have done that here. I could have had these amorphous blobs all over the garden, and it would have looked wonderful, but it's not what I wanted. I wanted more ordered, more linear garden spaces that made more sense to me. And I think that's sort of the best part of gardening, is that you can do you. You do you, you create the world that you want. So as you can see, we've pretty much filled this side. I still have a little bit of space on the other side. All this it's filling up. And if I did full trays of a lot of this stuff, I literally wouldn't have room on here. And some of you have greenhouses, so I'd like to hear your comments. Are your greenhouses chaotic? Do you start running out of space? Do you wish you had a bigger greenhouse? I think all gardeners wish they had a bigger greenhouse. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys do. Am I growing too many varieties? Can you ever grow enough varieties? But let Let me know in those comments below. So that's all the seeds I'm sowing today, but there's still so much more to plant in the upcoming weeks. And I'm also going to be sowing stuff in the ground. So yeah, every year it's a little bit of a challenge to make everything sort of work in the greenhouse. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Click that bell icon to be notified when I do post a new video. There's all sorts of good stuff coming up besides more seed sowing. There's, oh wow, I'm looking around the garden now, and you know what? Just subscribe. Along. There's a lot going on because I'm building the garden here on 1.5 acres. If you haven't checked out all those links below, please go check out all those links below. If you'd like to support the channel, you can go pick yourself up a nice little t-shirt. You can go check out my photo book that I did last year. Links are all below. It's also over on Amazon and my Etsy store. So if you haven't checked out my Etsy store, please go check out my Etsy store. Again, you can all help towards supporting the channel and buying more dirt and more plants and more mulch and more trees and more shrubs, and oh my. And I'd love to hear from you guys. So if you're starting to sow seeds, let me know below. If you have questions about any of the seeds that I'm sowing, let me know below. If you're still watching this video at this point, which I doubt many of you are, but if you are, please say, hey, I watched to the very end. And that, I think, is going to about do it for today. What do you think, Sophie? We're going to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.